You're listening to a DM podcast.
Welcome to Over the Back Fence. I'm Di Edwards.
I'm Nicola Dale, and we're buddies of nearly 4 decades. And yes, we actually do happen to share a back fence.
We do. We love parties, people, inspirational stories, and honestly, making the most out of life.
So join us as we open our hearts, share our stories, and hear from some of the most inspirational people in the world, and have a laugh along the way.
Yeah.
Enjoy. Hey, Jodie, it's a Monday again.
I used to get Monday-itis. Now I get excited about coming into the bloody studio.
And how was the weekend?
Busy.
Busy?
Yeah, went to a girlfriend's son's engagement party. They have a property out in Orange. And when I arrived on the Friday after a 4.5-hour drive, I said, look, I'm not going to have Friday night's frenzy because the party was on the Saturday. I think I was the last to leave the bar at
Famous
12:30.
last words, isn't it? Hey, you weren't, you happened to be singing, were you, Jodie?
No, maybe. Don't ask me to sing or pass me a microphone. And yeah, so that was fun. And what about you? What'd you get up to?
Well, I went to a lunch, and I think you were there for part of it too, just in the community B Centre. I think we might have talked about before, but it's a community where we are, and it's a centre that really helps for young people who can suffer from trauma, and it was just really good bringing awareness to that. And we had a beautiful lunch at the Manly Pavilion, and that was just really great.
And you know,
It's a
just
charity
to take it back a bit to what the Beast Centre is all about, it's actually about a lot of young children who have experienced trauma cannot express themselves verbally, but they come through play. So they actually heal through creativity. So it's a gift, and the results.
That's
speak
so
for
true,
themselves.
Joe. What did they say? What they struggle to say,
They
they
can
do with
express through play. Yeah.
which is just a really
So we love
great
getting
thing.
involved with the community,
Yes.
and DM us if there's anything you think we should be involved in. We're happy to help.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We'll put that sort of link
And
on our show
speaking of
notes.
charity-
Well, talking about charity, we have got the queen of all queens
Yeah.
of charity. We have got Ronni Kahn, Order of Australia, founder of OzHarvest, which is Australia's leading food rescue charity, a service that collects and delivers surplus food to charities that help people in need. You often see the yellow vans buzzing around like bees. Ronni is...
We saw one a couple of weeks
Didn't
ago
we?
at the
I
front.
know.
We're
Doesn't-
having coffee.
And it makes you so happy.
I
doesn't it?
know,
A little buzzing
yeah.
bee. Ronni is an advocate, a disruptor, an activist, an author. Her latest memoir, A Repurposed Life, absolutely loved it. I have to say I read it on audio. I love that. The film Food Fighters, cookbooks, children's books. Look, you do so much for our planet. Welcome to the back fence,
welcome,
Ronni.
Ronni. Really.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure to be here today.
There's so much about you, and there's so much to fit into an introduction. In fact, there's so much to unpack today. But I thought a really good starting point, something that resonated with me in a huge way, and I thought this is the best way to start. Whilst you were on holiday in South Africa, where you were born, you had a light bulb moment, and consequently, it's where your life's purpose began. I don't know, it's such a huge one, but I'd love you just to start by sharing the story and where you took it from there.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. So my rogue food rescue life had started. I was an event producer, and I kept putting on beautiful events. And at every one of my events, there was always food left over because I didn't want anyone to have to go to Macca's on the way home. I wanted them to eat, feel satisfied, and as part of putting on events, my responsibility was to show that my hosts were both generous and abundantly successful. So all of my events had food left over. But I had done one event that, up until that particular point, events start really early, they end really late. And quite honestly, if there'd been food left over, we would just turf it out, because that's what you did 30 years ago.
Yeah.
But at this particular one, there was so much food, and my people got pissed and didn't eat. And so I suddenly was faced with thousands of kilos of food, which I actually found a place to take to. So I had started realizing that I had treasure. I was creating food, and I suddenly discovered that there were people in need. And I was doing this more and more and loving it much more than putting on my events. But decided to take a break, went to South Africa, and this certainly wasn't, it was to fill my time, and I loved it and it satisfied me, but it certainly wasn't going to be in place of my business. But I met up with a very old and very wonderful friend. I say old in years, but also old in the length of my life, because she was around when I was born. She was my mother's friend.
Beautiful.
And our neighbor. And I went back to see her. My mother has since passed away. So I went back for a week thinking, I'll just go and chat with Selma, wise, wonderful woman who I didn't even know the extent of what she had done in her life. But I did know that she was an activist, and I knew that she'd been actively fighting apartheid. But I didn't know the details. And so I arrive in South Africa, and she says, we're going straight to Soweto. Now, growing up in South
Not a
Africa,
beach resort with a pina colada, exactly. We're going
Not-
straight to Soweto.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
a break, a week break, right?
Yeah, and the truth is, as a child growing up in South Africa, Soweto was just the most scary place to even contemplate, not to think of ever going there.
Incredible.
A shanty town with corrugated iron walls, little hovels, smoke, crime, an enormous den of crime, because millions of people were squashed into a small amount of space and completely discriminated against.
Remarkable.
So she says, we're going to Soweto, and in my mind, that's what
You had
Soweto
that
was.
image, yeah.
But the truth is, Mandela had been released. This was a new South Africa, and I had not
Interesting.
been back. And so with my heart in my boots, I say, okay. And as we drive into Soweto, Selma tells me that one of the things she'd been doing was that she had enabled electricity to come into this city.
Wow. It's huge.
Now, all I can say is the hairs on my arm stood up,
Isn't
and
it?
all I could think of was that I wanted to know what that would feel like, to make that kind of difference to that many people.
So it was that statement. It was her telling you her story, what she'd achieved,
That just,
Bang.
resonated.
Can we
Bingo.
talk about that? A light bulb moment
yeah,
with
absolutely.
electricity.
well, that's
I mean,
really?
exactly,
Oh,
but
seriously?
It's a lovely flow.
That's- yeah.
Electricity.
but that's
No, that's
exactly
remarkable.
the
I know
truth.
for a moment, but
I've
that
got
is, yeah, well, I
electric
know that with food.
pulses in
I
my
have
arms.
gone there with, I used to be with the airlines, and we used to go there a bit, and and I just remember going to see some of the places where they lived, and there's so much pride, and even if they didn't have much money, but they'd have wallpaper. It might be made out of Omo on,
Absolutely.
on the walls,
On the wooden walls.
But they'd be sweeping it. It would just be
Made-
spotless, and they
Absolutely.
were so
Wow.
proud, and the most beautiful people that would sing songs. But let's
Absolutely.
continue, Ronnie. This
Yeah.
is goosebumps.
So let's just take you back. You're you're
But
driving
also-
there, and
but
she's
the
sharing
reason
it.
we were going
Yeah.
into Soweto
Yes.
was actually because she was a radiologist, and she had decided she was teaching women. It was at the time of the AIDS epidemic, and she was teaching women that, in fact, showering is not going to end AIDS, and that using condoms and not sleeping with men in the first place who were infected was going to save their lives. And what she knew was that if you teach one woman, she teaches another, she teaches another. So she had set up AIDS clinics in Soweto. So by the time we got to the AIDS clinic, after she had told me that, I knew that my life would never be the same again.
Oh, this
Wow.
is
And
this
that's
is remarkable.
really what changed and set me on the commitment that actually I would seek out of my business, which took another 7 years to do, because I never set up OzHarvest to earn money or for it to be my primary source of income, but I needed a source of income. And so I carried on with my business until it became...
Business being the events.
Yes, yes.
And you're a florist
Yeah.
beforehand too, weren't
Yeah,
you?
well,
as well,
my
which
business
is-
was
yeah.
floristry
What a
and
beautiful
event, and it
things.
became event production.
And for those who are listening and don't know what OzHarvest is, can you explain to us
Sure.
what
So
it is?
what we do is on a daily, we do many
Besides
things.
the
And
yellow
people,
Yes, exactly.
and
yes,
people
yes.
freak when I actually start saying what we do. But what people know we do is that we have a fleet of over 80 yellow vehicles
80
across
now.
the country
Wow.
that are refrigerated and are driven by paid drivers who rescue produce from everywhere in the food supply chain and deliver that food to over around 2,000 organizations.
What are we talking food supply
We
chain?
we're
is
talking
that a restaurant or
supermarkets.
a...
We're talking anywhere in the food supply chain. So from supermarkets to farmers to manufacturers to producers to if you had an event right here and had 5 trays of sandwiches and you only ate 1 tray, we'd come and pick up the 4 trays.
Isn't that
and
wonderful?
deliver.
So that still is now. People can actually, Ronni, ring up and then get that collected.
Yeah,
which
look,
can
we're not
happen.
nearly as agile and nimble as we were,
No.
but we are still pretty agile and nimble for a big
Wow.
organisation.
And look, we don't want to jump ahead, but just
Yeah.
seeing you mentioned South Africa and
Yeah.
Selma and OzHarvest, has gone global.
Yeah.
But was her son the
Her son
CEO?
is my CEO in
How's
South
that?
Africa.
So, do we call that full circle?
Yeah, so
Oh,
I just
wow.
thought we
he
had to
is-
mention that.
Well,
'cause
him
that's
and I
just
got
amazing.
married
Beautiful
when we were
full
3 and 4. He
Yes.
stole Selma's engagement ring, and my mother found a ring in our house because we were neighbours, and went to Selma and said, this looks like a real thing, not like out of a lucky dip. Is this yours? And she said yes. And when she went to Alan said, well, you told me that I'd give it to the girl I'm going to marry, so I'm going to marry Ronni. But of course, we didn't. We were best
That's
friends
so
all our
beautiful.
lives.
Oh, I love stuff
And
like
so
that.
the fact that when the time came to start, for me, I always wanted to give back to South Africa. I left when I had just turned 17, had just finished school, but it was the country that I grew up in. And whilst this is where the bulk of my energy goes, I really wanted to make sure that we did something significant.
It's amazing.
And South Africa Harvest is amazing, and Alan runs it.
Wow.
It's
Isn't
beautiful.
it incredible?
Yeah.
So Selma's
Incredible.
son runs
Yeah.
it, which
Yeah.
is amazing. So
Yeah.
to start it, I can't even really imagine. So how it was, but you're
To
saying
start
from that,
here
Yeah, to
or
start here,
anywhere?
you're sort of saying for that very first event that there was too many, and then how did you go from there? Like really for something
Literally,
like,
where the hell do
Yeah.
you start? It's
So
so
I
broad.
think in
Tell
my
us.
naivety, stupidity, simplicity, all I did was say, I'm going to rescue food and feed it to hungry people. I didn't know how many people were hungry. I didn't know then that it was 3 million. And I do know that today it's 10, and we'll talk about
Yeah.
that. 10 million
Bear that in mind,
Australians.
listeners, what you just said. 10
But
million people.
I also
They're
didn't
happy.
know that it was costing our economy $36 billion a year. That is waste produce. And perfectly good, edible waste produce. And so once I thought I would just collect the food that I knew was there and solve this problem, give it to feed hungry people. But once I started realizing the scale of the problem, and once I also understood that what we were doing was 2 things. We were making sure good food goes to feed hungry people, but what I didn't know at the time, but learned very quickly, is that every time good produce, good food goes to landfill, it causes methane. It's the
Methane
whole
gas.
cycle means that food waste is the second biggest reason for climate change.
So that you just fell upon that literally. There you were helping people in need, and the next
Yes.
minute you're
And-
going, what?
And
I
that's
have
such a
both a
huge
social
thing,
from the
isn't it?
land-
and
landfill
environmental organisation,
the earth.
which is
And
why
Because I
That's-
think a lot of people
So
just
again,
seriously
full circle.
don't think of that. You know, like it just sometimes
true.
has to be
I
brought to
don't.
your
I
attention,
didn't.
like you've got excess food and whatever. You don't sort of, it's not the thing.
I think of plastic and,
well, this is the biggest challenge
so that's
that
really
people
good to
think
hear that.
plastic, people think straws, people
Yes.
think paper cups. All I can tell you is every single one of us can become and is and should be an eco-warrior and an activist and stop wasting food, because we do this every day, and we would also save about $2,000 annually if we were more mindful about not wasting food. So we would protect our planet and we would save money.
Save money
So
in turn.
So
that's
what's
pretty
safe for
cool.
our listeners? Just
like
to say,
if you still got that tape, I read something about OzHarvest has a tape you put in the fridge.
We do.
you do
We
this?
have Use
Can
It
you-
Up tape.
Am I right? It's free.
Absolutely.
Wow.
You just go
so do you
onto
tell
our
us about the
website.
tape? How does
Yeah,
it
Yeah,
work?
so we worked with Monash University.
I need it out of my mouth.
Yes,
Stop
exactly.
eating,
Yeah.
actually.
Or singing. No, we like a little sing along. We love to have a little sing along.
Sorry about
We've always been cheeky.
It's okay.
And
Yellow
just tell us
aprons
about
as well.
it.
Yeah.
Tell us
So
about
the yellow tape,
Yeah.
the purpose of it
Yeah.
is we did research with Monash University to understand what we could do to shift and change our behavior, because half of all food waste comes from our homes. So, every time people say, but it's the supermarkets, or it's this person's problem. Actually, it's coming from us. And so the research showed the top most likely thing we would do would be that we would use up our leftovers if we knew how. So number one, we knew we need to teach people how to use up their leftovers, but two, we have to show them how to manage their leftovers. So we created this beautiful yellow tape that says, use me, pick me, eat me, cook me. It's yellow and black. It's a world first in that it's biodegradable. It's made that it can go into a fridge. And you put it on a shelf in your fridge and you move everything in your fridge that needs to be used up. So if you've got a half-open yogurt, if you've got one leftover piece of chicken, which often just would land in the fridge somewhere, and then a week later, something smelling not so cool, you throw it out.
Clean it out.
So you
Yeah.
move everything onto this shelf, and so you create the awareness, and then you think, okay, I'll use that half a bit of chicken and I'll make a frittata, or I'll do this, or you go online, and there are myriad of recipes saying if you've got a piece of leftover chicken and you've got half a piece of capsicum and a quarter of an onion, this is what you could do with
I
it.
love it. Do you love
And-
this, Sam?
Yeah.
and
go-
it's
just
now-
I love it.
Sam
And I
nodding
like you
over
just
there.
make, I think you're the
It's-
same as me a bit, Ronnie.
Because you can make it up.
I just make things up as I go. I don't follow
yeah.
recipes, really.
Nicholas
I
the best
just
cook to
throw in a
watch.
bit of this and that. And
10
however-
minutes,
And
yeah.
I always
Got
I call
amazing
everything a
Absolutely.
Nicholas surprise and delight, because it's never, ever,
Well, that's
never ever
ex-
the same.
I think your whole life is a surprise and delight, actually.
Well, that is absolutely true, and most people are scared to experiment,
Oh, I
and
throw
so this
everything
is
in.
the
Yes.
challenge.
No, that's right up
Yeah.
Nicholas' alley.
And
But
so
I love
that's really, it's in more than 100,000 households, and it's proven that they have reduced their food waste by 40%.
And the
Now-
imprint on the earth.
Well, we got our
it's
country,
simple.
when I say we, OzHarvest, we got our country to commit to halving food waste by 2030. And so we have less than 3,000 days left to 2030, and we have to get every single household on board, halving their food waste, so that we can be the first country in the world that does
We're
this.
going to do that.
We're gonna
That's
push
by,
it.
by 2030.
We'll get the tape. We'll order it.
Yeah.
We'll keep on.
Get it.
We will
Beautiful.
get the
Yeah.
tape, and we'll be
Beautiful.
having it now in fridge. And now tell us, because so then it started, and then you've gone from Australia, and then it's gone to like countries such as what, the UK, Vietnam, and tell us a bit about
Japan.
Camilla, the patron, because I want to hear a little
Queen.
bit of royal
Queen.
gossip.
The Queen.
The Queen now.
With Queen Camilla.
So where to start? Where to
I
start?
don't know about
Okay.
the Queen.
One day we got a call saying you're going to get we need to come and check out your site because there's a VIP coming to town.
Oh.
Now, the truth is we had no idea who it was going to be. So anyway, finally we had to sign an NDA, and they told us that it was her. She was not Her Royal Highness then. She was Duchess of Cornwall.
Yes.
And she is so lovely.
Everyone
And
says she's sort of normal. That's
she
matter.
was gorgeous.
Just-
There's certainly absolute protocol that has to be managed around her,
Yeah.
which was totally fine to do.
Yeah.
An entourage, beautiful, in our kitchen that day, because we have a warehouse that have kitchens, we have a program called Nourish that takes youth between 15 to 25 who've fallen through the cracks, who might never have finished,
everything she said.
who might never have had a successful education program. That program's called Nourish. We had Nourish kids in the kitchen. Her Royal Highness wandered through the kitchen chatting to these kids. She chatted to our staff. And then at some point she said, I love this so much, I think it should be in the UK. And I said, well, if there's a royal decree, then we have to make that happen. And the universe provides, that's how I function. The universe provides, most people just laugh, but it happens again and again and again.
Oh, you're wonderful.
Anyway, and so we set up UK Harvest, and Her Royal Highness is still our patron there.
And how did
How
Jamie Oliver get
wonderful.
involved?
So I put on an event there. We put on an event in the UK to launch UK Harvest that we invited Jamie to be part of. In Australia, we used to run an event up until COVID called the CEO Cook-Off. We'd invite CEOs to come and cook with top
So this
chefs.
is
We'd
gold.
get 50 chefs.
Yellow gold.
Yeah, we'd get 50 chefs. We'd invite all the CEOs to raise money, to cook, and on the night, we'd invite 1,000 of our guests, hungry people, and flip the tables and make the CEOs serve our guests.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
Oh, I've never heard
I
that.
know.
You know what?
So we did-
As
yes.
they make
Because she's done events, you see, also.
yeah, and then
Exactly.
as you
Concept,
said,
yeah.
you make the invisible visible.
Exactly.
How's that?
Exactly.
So it's just
And
these
so we
people.
did that
It's
in the
I'm
UK.
like my favourite
And
music.
so we did that in the UK, and I invited Jamie, and we had a whole bunch of
Jamie
chefs.
Bay.
And so we
Yes.
did it. We put it on in this
How
magnificent
wonderful.
space, and Her Royal Highness, now, then
The
the
Queen.
Duchess of Cornwall,
Wow, amazing.
was our guest, and she chose to be our patron.
Oh,
And
Wonderful.
I'm
you know,
going
put
to
her money
really
where her
sound
mouth
like a
is.
wanker.
Excuse the pun.
Can I sound like a wanker? Because
No, we love wankers.
a few years later, she invited me to her 70th birthday party, so I went.
Oh, brilliant! I love it. How
And they
was
go,
that?
where are you off to, Ronnie? Oh, just a birthday party.
Yeah,
Yes.
at the
Where?
palace.
At the
Oh,
palace.
the
Oh, I
you know.
love that. Well, we
You know
actually
how
had,
it is.
you'd know who was the Young Australian of the Year, I think 2022, Daniel Knorr.
Oh, I've just been speaking.
Oh,
I
he's
love it.
beautiful.
He's just-
And
I
for
see he went to the
listeners, make sure you go back
And
last
listen to
year.
his
You'll
one,
find
his
his.
Street
Okay.
Side
Very
Medics who
special.
bring sort
Yeah,
of, you know,
he's
like
beautiful.
just
Yeah.
wonderful. Well, he got invited
course.
to the wedding, and I think it was with
That's
Julie
right.
Bishop and
that
Lionel
next to
Richie.
Lionel
No,
Richie?
to the coronation,
The coronation,
and he's
the
talking,
coronation.
and he's talking to Lionel Richie for me for my concert.
Oh,
Oh,
brilliant.
now we're
So
gonna
we need
talk
to get
about
Lionel
that.
Richie to come or to give me a message.
Well, let's
We've got to
recap.
speak to a
While
few
we're on it
people.
now, we're going to
Let's go down that road.
Yes.
Just when Ronnie sat down, she said, hot off the press, it's all very exciting. And I say she, because it's her idea.
And
Again,
it's
my
So
what's
what's
my
on-
team.
what's happening?
It's my
She's got
team.
something coming up on the 7th of November she's going to share with
Well,
us.
it's
And
our
it's hot off the
20
press.
Hey,
It's
we're
our
going.
20th year. It's our 20th year.
Okay, so
so
it's
in
20th
order
year for
to
OzHarvest.
celebrate,
Yep.
to do two things: to
Yep.
raise awareness about the absolute dire, hidden crisis in this country that 10 million Australians at any point in the year need food. So this is not a laughing matter. This is serious, and most people don't know that. Most people, when I say 10 million, they sort of start thinking and saying, no, but 10 million means almost 1 in 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly right. There are people that you know.
She's on the forefront, guys. What you're
Yes.
hearing is gospel.
Yes.
Yeah,
that's
so
right.
what
Yeah.
we know is that there is a whole new demographic of need: teachers, nurses, people who work, who cannot end the month because the cost of living crisis is so dire. So in order to raise awareness of it, and in order to fundraise for OzHarvest so that we can feed more people, because every dollar that we raise allows us to deliver 2 more meals, we are putting on the equivalent of a Live Aid, a Band-Aid, We Are the World moment on the
That's a
7th
We Are the
of
World song.
November.
We are the world.
You wanted
we
to
are
sing?
the children.
Exactly.
All right, I'll come and sing. Don't ask
Okay,
me to
so
sing.
now
But
you
don't
will be
sing.
singing a new song
Oh, and your son.
called
Am I right?
Teaspoon of Love. I mentioned teaspoon.
Tell us
So
about
then I
that.
have to tell you a little story.
She's wearing
Please.
a teaspoon, guys.
You love
yeah.
I'm
stories.
wearing more than one.
Yeah.
That is a teaspoon too. And the reason I wear a teaspoon is because it's a symbol. And so I will share with you. So this is based on a quote that I once heard. And it's now turned into a movement, really. And the quote goes like this. In the event of a huge conflagration, like a bushfire, we all have 3 principal ways we can behave. Number 1, we can look at that fire and run away as fast as we can and leave those that cannot run to burn. It's an option. Number 2, we can write an angry letter to the newspaper and make sure that the perpetrators get punished. Or number 3, we can run and find a bucket. And if you cannot find a bucket, find a jug. If you cannot find a jug, find a teaspoon. Because although a teaspoon is tiny and that fire is huge, there are millions of us. And if every single one of us uses our teaspoon, we can put out that fire.
Yeah,
And so
it's true.
I invite everyone to be part of the Order of the Teaspoon, where we wear a teaspoon around our neck. The point is so a teaspoon can stir us into action, and a teaspoon is our reminder for random acts of goodness and kindness that we all have to do every single day. So the song is the Teaspoon of Love, and it'll be sung as the finale at the concert, and every single one of you listening needs to be at this concert.
Oh, come on, Beck,
Tickets
feed
are
some
on
The other song was
tickets
Feed the
are
World.
available.
Well,
Here, it's-
Exactly.
this is
We're
the
feeding our
2024
world in Australia.
20-year anniversary
Exactly.
of OzHarvest. Like, my
Might
God.
even have a bit of Lionel Richie singing
Like,
along
wouldn't
too,
that
which
be
would
just
kinda cool.
incredible?
So I don't think he
Well,
I don't
from
think he
your
could-
lips and mine to his ears.
Exactly.
I'm
Well,
If the
so
universe is
excited.
going to provide,
I love it.
Lionel is going to come.
And where's it been held again?
At the ICC, that's the International Convention
It's a great
Centre,
venue. We love
Sydney,
it.
the
It's a great
7th
venue.
of November. By the
So
time
happy.
this goes to air, tickets will be on
Tickets
sale.
are already on sale.
And so just to go back to
Tickets.
Camilla,
Yes,
on
Camilla.
the
Just to go
day-
back.
We've got it.
on the day that she was there, I actually, with no connection to this teaspoon story, I just realized I had a whole bunch of wooden spoons that we'd painted gold that we used to use as a symbol of our partnerships. And I had the Duchess sign one. So we have a signed gold teaspoon from Her Royal Highness.
I love
Oh,
it.
wonderful. And I bet you there wasn't any food wastage at her 70th party. Was
So
there with you
funny.
being
Not
there?
even
I
was
mean,
there.
really?
She
So
was
you
out
know
the
what?
back.
I'd asked if our van could be there.
Yes,
Because
yes.
I thought
Brilliant.
there might be leftover. But there wasn't. They served exactly.
The right amount.
Oh, that's impressive.
How beautiful.
That's run like a
won't say-
tight
I
ship.
won't say I was hungry.
Yes.
Now, listen, guys, I also want to say that I think there's a few people listening going, oh, Ronni, isn't she incredible? She started this and off it goes. Well, you know what? It wasn't that easy. I think the thing that shocked me the most when I was reading up on Ronni was she had to fight the government to go and grab food that's been dumped to say, no, this food's fine to feed the our vulnerable and our homeless. I mean, that was a huge fight for you
Look,
to
I
get
think
through
the
that.
most
they had
important-
torches on too. She'd actually
Yeah,
go through to the
yes,
dumpsters.
free.
If you
I think
see
the
food
most-
fighters, it's amazing.
I think the most important thing that your listeners can know is that every single one of us has the capacity to do something. It's not about the size. It's not about how big. We do not all have to start a charity. I happen to have fell into this journey, my path, my life's purpose. But it doesn't matter what you do. Do it with your best intentions and be kind to people and look after the planet, and your
beautiful.
life will be enriched forever.
Oh, Ronni, thank you for sharing that. 'Cause
That was just like
it's-
you just gave me a big hug.
Yeah, and I think you
Truly.
gave everybody a big hug there. And just was saying that, and in life's journey too. Now you're in your 70s and rocking it and looking great. But you've had a few marriages and relationships breakdowns.
sure
and,
have.
I love the way she goes,
Yeah,
sure.
And I've got to say,
And two beautiful children.
yeah, and you're looking fantastic. But if you could share a little story, because it is kind of quite amazing. From the perm when you were younger to then all of a sudden you let your hair go, and what your husband at the time then
You're rocking
thought
this
of
look,
it.
by the way.
Share that story, because I think people can sort of relate, because we've all had sometimes broken relationships or marriages or things. But
Yeah. So the interesting thing was, we had done a film shoot. I had this long, curly brown hair, and they filmed me from the back, and I looked like the frickin' Pope because there was a ring of silver.
Colgate ring of
And I
confidence.
decided I was spending so much time at that frickin' hairdresser, having my hair dyed. I just decided I'm cutting it off and going natural. This is a long time ago, before it was so fashionable. So I didn't think I had to consult anybody, because it's my head, my body,
Yes, yeah.
and off I went to do that. And I came home, and my husband nearly freaked. He didn't like it. And I thought that was fairly pathetic, as an understatement.
Did you ask me if I
And
did?
what was the state of his hair, by the way?
He didn't have any, so it was
that speaks
I
a
didn't
thousand
choose,
words.
and I didn't say that I wouldn't marry you or like you because you didn't have hair. So why would you stop loving me because I changed my hair? Anyway, the truth is that marriage didn't work, and the best thing I ever did was go grey. And when people ask me where this beautiful color, I say it's God's the designer.
Wow, how's
I
that?
don't have any other answer,
And
because
you're rocking it, isn't she?
I wanted salt and pepper, but I never got salt and pepper. I went straight
To salt.
silver.
Beautiful.
It looks
Beautiful.
incredible.
It looks
Ronnie, I
great.
just wanted to quickly mention, Nicola mentioned in the intro about a repurposed life.
Yes.
I loved you say that you didn't grow up being ambitious about anything, but when you find your calling, then you're empowered by a force that is unstoppable.
And it's true.
That got me.
Because it's true. Because, in my book, I actually used that concept that I was a little mouse in a corner. I was so shy. People do not believe me, but I still would definitely rather not go to a cocktail party.
Unless it's Camilla.
Always food.
Well, yes, but I don't like going in and chatting to a million people. That's not what I love to do. I don't love that at all. But put me on a stage and I can talk about anything, when I would never, ever, ever have done that pre having a purpose and a meaning and something to talk about. So there's absolutely no doubt that the empowering comes from being on purpose. And on purpose can be, you could be the best barista in the world and love it. It doesn't, again, have to be, you guys called me a queen and we laugh and joke, charity queen. And that's just something that I do, and I'm so privileged and blessed and lucky to do that. But you don't have to want to start a charity. You just have to do good. That is the ultimate, really empowering force.
Yeah.
And that's what makes me unstoppable, because it's not about me. It's about what I do, and it's about the effects of what I do. So,
Well, thank you, because it's.
Yeah.
I think
You're an
people
angel on earth.
You really are, and I
Thank
think,
God
but I
you're
think
here.
by saying that, though, the simple things
a
that can
TV
just
show.
help people, because there's a lot of people, we've all been there, and we know people who are like that, who are feeling stuck, lonely, lost their purpose, don't know what to do, and sometimes it is just that smallest thing, or doing something, even if it's just tiny volunteering. And it can help you with that. What would you say?
I'm going to share.
people?
I can't remember if I put this in my book. Sometimes I think I remember, sometimes I don't, because we had so much material and then we cut it down, and it was such a beautiful experience. But in truth, We do a class at OzHarvest. It's across the nation. We use this. It's team building. It's called Cooking for a Cause. It's the most beautiful program because companies can bring their people together and they team build, and particularly after COVID, and quite honestly, the effects of COVID are still long to be felt. But this program is beautiful, and somebody I think booked it for their birthday, or one of the companies brought their people, and it's such a divine thing to do. And I got a call from a woman who said, I want to say thank you. I said, what for? So one of the things we do, and it is in the book because it's about the magic apron, but one of the things we do is we give a yellow apron out at the cooking class. And she said, I want to thank you because it's a magic yellow apron. I said, what do you mean it's a magic yellow apron? We give you a yellow apron. She said, look, I live alone. I've been so lonely and so miserable. I went to your cooking class and I came home and I put on my apron and I started making some cookies and I took them to my neighbor and I took them across the street. And she said, my life has changed. Every week I put on my magic yellow apron. I channel Nigella, or I channel Jamie, or I channel Matt Moran, or Neil, and I am giving away food, and I am the happiest person I've ever been. So it's in so many different ways we can find a way to connect with people, and often food is the biggest connector.
Yeah, well, that's a great way. And also, if you have excess food, to do your own little cook up and give them to neighbours, because we're saying, we're saying
over the back fence.
And we do
I was
actually
thinking
share
that
a
when you
back
were
fence.
saying that.
And we
over the
are
back
all
fence.
about
Exactly.
sometimes, you were saying, go to someone to borrow the sugar, or go to someone there, or give them the cookie, or to do things. And also, roll out, I love it. You don't have the red carpet, you have the yellow carpet too. So
Isn't that Elton John?
It's like Yellow Brick Road.
Don't
Hey, maybe
ask
we'll
me to
get
sing.
Elton John to come along for a little
Okay.
sing-along
Yeah.
too.
Okay,
That'd
we'll
be
just
good.
All
put
the
it out.
emails are going
I love
out.
it too.
There's so many different avenues where, OzHarvest is involved.
Yeah.
And it's just so many tentacles internationally, not, by state, not nationally. It's
And how do you
international.
find now, also with people too, we're all about longevity and living your best life, and you've certainly given us some tips too, but how do you feel as you're aging? Do you feel like proud of being your age, or how do
I
you
feel that I'm probably 20. It's a pity it doesn't look like it from the outside.
See,
I don't think
ditto.
my energy levels have shifted or changed in
wonderful.
I think that's part of your
Anyway,
DNA, though.
I think
You've got great energy. As
Well,
in,
I
not
think-
spiritual, I'm talking
I
physical.
think both. I think I'm just, again, I'm blessed. And when you're on purpose and when you're doing what you
Right.
love,
Gives you
I haven't
energy.
worked for a
Right.
day in the last 20 years.
There you go.
And I
Do what
have
you love,
no
love what you do.
intention.
And you know
Once
what?
again,
You back that up every
But
time.
it's
It's so
do
true.
every time. Just for our
Yeah,
listeners, just to
it's
know
so
that too, because
true.
sometimes they go, "Oh, I'm turning this age. I'm so old." You go, "Hey, look at Ronni. You're rocking it."
I
You know?
called my age.
Edges between your
My
ears.
age
Oh,
serum
there you
is
go.
attitude. That's my
Absolutely.
age serum. It's not what I put on my face. It's I've now
Reads
recognized.
between the lines.
It's attitude, and I'm not in
absolutely.
denial of my age. I just wake up each day and I'm so excited about the world.
Yeah, me too.
You know.
I've got wisdom that I didn't have 20 years ago.
Well, we've got some signature questions which
Yes.
I'd like us to throw your way. Do you want to start, Daddy?
Yeah,
Doody,
oh,
Doody,
this
Doody,
will be
Doody? There's only two.
Okay,
It's only-
okay.
and
Who's
it's,
gonna
and
shoot?
it's, I love these questions because it can go so many different ways. Ronni, if you had the opportunity of meeting someone over the back fence, who would that be and why?
So always it's the same answer.
Wow.
Because it's Nelson Mandela.
Oh, yeah.
Because I
Have you met him?
No, I
Right.
never did. He was in
No.
prison, and by the time he got out, I was here.
Oh.
But have got close.
What is it you most admire about him?
First of all, his humility. Secondly, his ability to mobilize people who hated him,
Wow.
because he was pure in his intention and commitment.
Reminds me of someone else. I'm thinking, who would I be thinking of, I wonder? Sitting across from us right now. Go Knickers.
Yeah, well, that is incredible. And the way I always think too, and how he just didn't turn bitter.
Oh.
You know, he turned around.
And he said, if I have to die for this, I will.
Yes.
And he meant it.
He's got his, I went to his house when I went to Soweto as well.
Of course.
Yeah, amazing. Now, if you could turn back that clock to 20-year-old Ronni, what would you say to her?
I'd probably say just believe in yourself, because I don't know that I did then. I did what I needed to do, but I don't know that I had I didn't have the conviction, because
You hadn't had the perm either, had you?
Exactly, no perm. So I had not changed my life. But, believe in your ability. And I think most of us so underestimate ourselves. And we just don't have the confidence. We have the competence. I heard this beautiful thing yesterday around men mistake confidence for competence. Women have the competence but don't have the confidence. Isn't that beautiful?
Never
I heard
that.
Well, I haven't
just,
heard that either.
No, that's magnificent.
And confidence, confidence is everything, isn't
well,
it?
It gets you out of bed.
Attitude.
And
an
puts you to
attitude
sleep
of
at night.
gratitude.
Yeah,
Attitude of gratitude.
See, to me, that's
you've got that
number
in
one.
spades,
Yeah.
and I tell you what, from the teaspoon to the spades, we'll be there, and
What
we'll be
did I
there.
write?
We'll be there.
I
at
just
the
wrote. I
concert.
just wanted to say thank you for being a vessel to help those in need, including our Earth.
Oh, can I quickly
you.
also
Thank
just
you.
sort of say too that now has there been a change of guard as well too?
Oh,
with
yes.
the CEO.
With-
You've been
yes,
doing
I've just stepped aside.
So congratulations
juicy
on that
gas
as
here
well.
over the-
too, just
See, you
to
come
say-
down to the back.
Just
Let's have a
before
cup
we
of
say
tea.
that too. So is it James?
James Goff.
James
Goff.
Goff.
Yes,
James
who's now our
Goff.
CEO, and I am the visionary in residence, which I think I was always, but
Always.
now
What a
I have
vision.
a title.
Yeah.
What a title!
Didn't I just
That is
say?
a great title.
Well,
That's
you are-
So congratulations on that.
Thank
With
you.
So
us with the
refreshing.
baton on,
Right.
and so we want to sort of thank all our listeners.
And we want you all to come on the 7th of
Come
November.
on.
If you want to come with us,
I think you're going to get
DM
tickets
us,
really quickly
and
too.
we'll all
Yeah.
meet outside and go in together.
Please, let us know. We can all
Come
be
and
have a
join us over the back fence
group.
on the 7th
Yeah.
of November.
We'll be singing out loud and proud, that's for sure.
I
So
will be.
So everyone, thank you for following, rate and review. And we always give stars. We like 5 stars, but we like to give a few more. How many do you think
Okay,
for Ronni?
this'll rock
Come
you.
on, I want to be rocked.
For Ronni, it's infinity out of 5.
Oh, yeah, I
There
agree.
you
Reaching
go.
the stars
That's-
infinity.
that's my
You
truth.
are. You're a shining star. And
Yeah.
do so much
Thank
well.
you.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you,
Ronni. Thank you, listeners.